All right, let's get this show started.
Dana White insists he can't rely on Jon Jones for UFC White House. Trusts Conor McGregor. Dana White knows who he can count on for the biggest event in promotional history. Earlier this year, White and United States President Donald Trump announced that next summer, the UFC will host an event on the White House lawn in celebration of the 250th anniversary of the country's founding. While the event is still almost a year away, it figures to be one of the biggest in UFC history, with fighters lining up to compete at it. Chief among those who wish to do so are arguably the two biggest fighters in the sport right now, Conor McGregor and Jon Jones. After the initial UFC White House announcement, both McGregor and Jones noted their interest in competing at the event, with Jones even ending his short-lived retirement. Unfortunately for Jones, White quickly put the kibosh on his bid, saying he can't trust Jones to headline a card of that magnitude, and the UFC CEO isn't changing his tune. He's not the guy that when crap hits the fan, he's not the guy like, whatever, I'll fight whoever, White told Jim Rome on Thursday. He's one of the guys I put on the list who has had some not so bright people around him that made decisions for him, and he listened to them at that time in his career. Fight fell out, the only fight we've ever canceled in the history of the company. Widely considered to be one of the greatest fighters of all time, Jones has also been difficult to promote at times. Jones infamously failed a drug test ahead of UFC 200, forcing him out of his planned rematch with Daniel Cormier just days before the event. Just 2 years later, the promotion then had to relocate UFC 232 on short notice to California after an issue with a Jones drug test in Las Vegas. And most famously, Jones refused to fight Chael Sonnen on a week's notice at UFC 151 after Dan Henderson withdrew from the fight, causing the UFC to cancel the entire event. At one point, these incidents had White say Jones would never headline an event again, though that ultimately proved not to be true. But for an event on par with UFC White House, White isn't ready to take that chance. I'm never worried about Jones not being clean for performance-enhancing drugs. I'm not worried about that, White said. My thing about Jon Jones is, in the crunch time, bad things always happen leading up to fights, and all this stuff. Can I count on Jon Jones? That's my thing.